Bill Griffith in Boston, thank you for that. We're going to go back to the breaking news desk, because Sue Herrera has an update for us. Sue.
Yes, indeed, Andrew, I do. And tonight's Red Sox game at Fenway Park, which was scheduled for a little bit after 7 p.m. tonight, with the city in complete lockdown, has now been postponed, they say, to support the efforts of law enforcement officials who, as you know, are seeking to find that second suspect. So once again, with the city in lockdown, they've postponed the game tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Back to you guys.
All right, Sue, thank you so much. We are joined right now by Chad Sweet. He is a former CIA Director of Operations and Chief of Staff to former Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff, now CEO of the Chertoff Group. Good to have you on the program, sir.
Good to be here.
On the phone also with us is Michael Davidson, a former CIA operative specializing in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. Chad, does it surprise you that the second suspect was able to escape and that he is on the run right now? I mean, after the extraordinary events overnight with the gunshots being fired back and forth, how did he get away?
Well, actually, Maria, it's the opposite. It's astonishing that they didn't further evacuate the perimeter, and if they had taken advantage of the lead they had, we may have had a situation like we had with Faisal Shahzad and the Times Square bomber. You may remember we literally caught Shahzad. He was on a plane pulling away from the terminal on the tarmac at JFK Airport. We had to stop that plane and bring it back. And in this case, it's actually astonishing that these individuals did not attempt to flee further. And I think it underscores the possibility that these two are not very sophisticated. This is the B team. This is not the A team of terrorists.
So from your gut, I mean, what would your gut tell you? Where is he? Still in Watertown? Do you think he was able to leave the city?
Well, I think, Maria, one of the things that people don't realize is that manhunts are hard. I mean, think about it. It took us 10 years to get bin Laden. It took us 9 months to track down Saddam Hussein in a spider hole. It took us 9 days to get the rogue LAPD cop that just killed folks a few weeks ago. And now, if you think about this, we're only coming up on the 4th day of this event. So people need to understand that it is very hard to do a manhunt. They're going door by door. They have to do it very safely. And there could be, again, he's clearly intent on trying to kill others. So people need to be patient. This is making progress. It's highly likely he's still within what's called the cordoned area, the perimeter. They're tightening the noose on this Chad, individual, and we'll know soon.
There's a sense, though, that the older brother was the mastermind behind this. And we don't know if that's right or wrong, but clearly this is now the younger brother. He is on his own. Do you think that he has the same commitments, if you will, to this experience as his older brother and the mastermind of this might?
Well, it's been reported that the older brother posted on his social media website statements about being disenchanted with America, not having friends, not understanding Americans. And it strikes me that he, as you said, probably was an influence on his brother. He was a boxer. We know that he went abroad for an extended period right before these events. The younger brother, on the other hand, was just made a naturalized U.S. citizen. And I think where we are right now is we have to assume that both are equally motivated, and both are equally armed and dangerous. But he is tired. He's been running on adrenaline. He hasn't had any sleep. He's coming up on over 48 hours with no sleep. So there will come a point where he's going to have to face a decision either to try to rest and risk getting caught or give himself up.
Michael Davidson, jump in here. You, of course, a specialist on the persistent threat to U.S. interests of Putin's Russia. What do you think this tells us in terms of the relationship between the U.S. and Russia? And what do you glean from what we know so far about the two suspects?
Well, what I can say is that I was actually surprised that there was a Chechen or a Dagestani connection to this activity, because really the conflict, the Chechen conflict, there have been 2 wars fought in Russia over Chechnya, mainly because of its importance in Soviet oil refining and as a transit point for oil coming up from the Caspian Basin, which Russia then exports to Western Europe. But this is really an intra-Russian conflict more than anything else. So what I certainly agree with everything Chad said, and it might be interesting to note that the Chechen guerrilla leader Shamil Basayev in 1998, publicly joined the Wahhabi movement. Now, it's my understanding that the Wahhabists are a minority among Chechens, but these acts that we've just seen in Boston would appear to me to be somewhat of that ilk, and I doubt very much that this has anything at all to do with the Chechen-Russian.
Well, let me ask you about that, Michael. The older brother, now dead, reportedly went back to Russia for 6 months, and there has been the suggestion that he was, quote-unquote, activated during that period. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, it could be, just as much as he might have been activated by Anwar al-Awlaki's website. As I said, I think you have to separate the Chechen-Russian conflict from what has happened here in the United States, which really basically has absolutely nothing to do with what the Russians and the Chechens were fighting about.
Do I understand, Mr. Davidson, that for a long time, actually, the Americans saw the Chechens as rebel freedom fighters against the Russians, that there was almost a tacit support in some ways, that this would certainly change that? No, there's a connection?
Well, that's absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, the first Chechen War from, I think, 1994 to 1996 was conspicuous for the brutality and lack of professionalism of the Russian soldiers who were sent into Chechnya to put down the rebellion. The second war began, I think it was in 1999, and lasted for until 2000. When Chechnya was finally
But Michael, isn't that harder to believe? Because it wasn't as if these gentlemen said free Chechnya and then set off the bomb. They made no political statements. It doesn't appear they had any goal, and in fact martyrdom likely isn't one of them either, because the younger one is on the run.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. You know, I mean, if you want to look at examples of violence, you have to look no further than the Chechen movement. Under Basayev, as a matter of fact, that's when all of those apartment building bombings occurred in Russia that ended up killing 293 people and injuring over 600 people. So they're certainly adept at causing mayhem and bloodshed. But I still insist that what these two terrorists did in the United States is unrelated to the Russian-Chechen conflict. I think we have to separate those two.
Michael Davidson, Chad Sweet, thank you for your analysis right now, and we appreciate it very much. In the meantime...